Welcome to Your Unapologetic Life, the podcast. I'm your host, Morgan Barkis, your go-to women's empowerment coach here to help you reclaim your confidence and sparkle after a breakup. I'm excited to share my high-impact free video training. It's called Bounce Back Quick, 5 Confidence Boosters After a Breakup, filled with actionable strategies to help you take control and feel empowered again. To get this free video, visit morganbarkis.com and subscribe to my email list or click the link in the show notes. Now, let's dive into today's episode. You and I barely just met a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, and that was awesome. And I don't know enough about you that I'd love to start from wherever you want in the beginning. Maybe how you grew up, what relationships looked like for you throughout your life, and then we'll get to when you knew it was time to get out of your last relationship.
Yeah. So I'm Sandra, and it's really interesting to talk about like my past, my growing up, because really this conversation isn't just about a marriage or a relationship, because it's about the whole person I am and who I brought into that marriage and where I'm at now. It's all connected. So I grew up in Milwaukee. I had 3 siblings. Parents were married, and they're still married. And grew up in actually a strict evangelical Christian home. And I won't get into the details of all that because that could be a whole other podcast series. But I will say that that upbringing had a real impact on how I approached my marriage, what I um, wanted from my marriage, and the role I thought I should play in that marriage. It really did set the stage for a lot of things that turned out to be problematic. And so I think that's probably the most important thing about my upbringing. I also had just an interesting cultural background, as I am of Mexican heritage. And my parents moved to Wisconsin from South Texas, a border town. And you know being raised here, Milwaukee's a very, very segregated city, and they chose not to live around other Mexican people. So I grew up on opposite end of town from people who looked like me, in a religion that wasn't typical for my culture. So there were so many different things at play in my upbringing, and that just kind of shaped me to be a person who um, think I can get fit in a lot of scenarios. I can get along. I have a lot of I guess it like a competence of getting to know people and connecting with people and understanding people. So that's been helpful in my life. It's was challenging growing up, but it has been helpful in work and in relationships and in friendships.
Do you still have family in South Texas?
Yeah, not really anybody I'm close to, but yeah, all my dad's family's still down there. Some of my mom's family's down there, but we kind of were a little disconnected from that.
The Midwest. That's a different
It
animal.
is.
That's different. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's different. It's not exactly
No.
multicultural. All right. So in terms of, I mean, you got religion playing a factor. You've got, you might feel like you were saying, you don't fit in necessarily. How did that influence dating? Did you have certain advice from people in your
Uh,
life about who to date, how to date, the decisions you should be making, or
Absolutely
was it?
not. There was no dating. There was no dating.
Oh,
People
okay.
are like, "Oh, my parents were strict. I had such a strict curfew." And I'm like, "I didn't have a curfew. I couldn't go anywhere." Um, we were raised like a very, very strict. And so there was really no dating. I actually met my ex-husband, in high school, and we were secretly dating. And I would say that that pretty much took away any opportunity for me to date prior to getting married. So he was, pretty much it. Not that I didn't like have other, like, those telephone boyfriends you have in high school, or you just, talking to people and that kind of stuff. But really, as far as dating, when we get to the post marriage part, I mean, I have never dated. I've never dated. Really, it was just my husband. Looking
Girl,
at your
girl,
face.
girl. Well, because and you know what, and I think about my brother. He's been with one woman. He loves her endlessly. That worked for him. Like he even knew at 19. I mean, he was 19 years old when they got together. They both were. And my parents, my mom was about to turn 20. My dad had just turned 20 when they got married. They've been married 51
Mhm.
years. Like sometimes it just, for me, I don't know if it's because I was born in the year of the monkey. I have it tattooed over here. I am a wild child. I'm curious. I want to see all the things, do all the things. And I'm 45 almost and never been married. So for me, I just think, wow, how did you even know what you wanted, who you were,
I didn't.
what you liked, what
I
you
didn't.
didn't
I
like?
didn't. I
Yeah.
didn't. And so, um, for me, the expectation, I think, with particularly my dad was to find someone, get married, and that was the way to stay chaste, for someone to have a man, and to have someone like you go from your dad to him, like you are being passed from the care of one man to the care of another man. And even just like a few weeks ago, my dad's like, "When are you getting married again?" And I'm like, "To who?" Like, I'm just supposed to find somebody because he wants me to be taken care of by man. But I don't even think that really was meant in like financially or anything like that. It really meant that a woman needs to be taken care of or watched, or I don't know. I don't know,
Mm.
maybe controlled, or I don't know what it is. It definitely had a big impact on my decision to be with the person I was with. Like that's what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to be out here
Sure.
being promiscuous or anything like that. So being married was like, okay, you're good. And for my dad, it was, we don't have to worry about you now.
I think even my parents, they've never, ever, ever gratefully pressured me. We
Mhm.
didn't grow up in any particular religion. There wasn't a main modus that it was like, you have to do this by this time or
Mhm.
this or that.
Mhm.
Never. And I'm so grateful for that. And they are 71 and will say, we just want to know, like, there's a point where it's like, when we're gone, we want to know you have someone. And it's not necessarily because I need you for money or for happiness, just to have a partner, because they've had each other
Yeah.
their whole lives and they've built a life together and they rely on each other. And even in the not best times, they still have each other and still want to work it out. And I don't, and I've always been alone. So I think obviously for you, there's some cultural, religious things. And as parents, they're like, ugh, someday when I'm not here, I want to make sure you're not in this world all by
Yeah.
yourself. And so that's how it comes across for me. And at the same time, I'm wondering about your shift, because if you grew up with those stories where you're under dad's roof, he's taking care of you, he's your dad as he should, loves you, takes care of you, passes you on to someone else, that sounds really nice, and at the same time, I'm guessing there were some stories that were told that didn't maybe feel healthy, or and how have you restoried those? And I say that because sometimes I'll run into a woman who is grown woman who's saying, "Well, when I was a kid, my parents said that or I thought that." And I said, "Yeah, but do you still believe that? Is that still your story? Because you get to write however this you can tell the story now however you want. No one is telling your story anymore. No one's the narrator except for you. So what were the stories then, and now that you're post marriage, have you restoried those things, those lessons or those narratives that you grew up with?"
Yeah, there's two things, like in reflecting on things, getting ready for this. I was thinking about like how I um had the courage to get out of I was married for 27 years. I had the courage to step away from that very familiar, comfortable place, good or bad. It was what I knew. It was what
Mhm.
my family expected. It was all those things. Um, I remembered I had a friend who was mentor, friend. And one of the things that she challenged me with was stories. She was like, "Well, who are the heroes in your family?" And this is she had me reflect on who are the heroes in your family.
Like that.
Yeah, and
Okay. And?
it is from I was really trying to figure out it's from a book, and I really wanted to give the author credit on this, but I could not remember where. But so the my friend and mentor was like, who are the heroes? Like, spec- particularly the women. Who are the heroes in your family? And there's this story is always told about one of my grandmothers and how she was just so strong, just such a good woman. And I won't refute that. Times are different. This is okay, let's say the 1940s, 50s, 60s, when she was married to my grandfather. And so, I don't want to discredit, and I love the story of her. I love her strength. And there's a lot of stories that are told about her. But one that always stood out to me was that she held the family together. She held the family together, even though her husband was a terrible person, and was terrible to her. And they tell the story that she would iron his clothes so he could go see his other woman.
No.
Yeah, yeah. And and they're telling these stories like just what a good woman she was, like all the stuff she endured, everything she went through. And you know again, not to say that's a bad thing or a good thing or whatever it might be, it just was.
I was gonna say, to me, it says
Yeah.
resilience. For better or worse, she is a
Yes.
resilient, strong woman.
Yes.
Because I couldn't have,
No,
wouldn't have. Yeah.
exactly. And I think um hearing that story, my younger self probably thought, I couldn't do that. But you hear those stories enough, and you hear who your family lifts up, what they value in a person, and that's what you want to do. You want to live up to that ideal, what your family thinks, um, what they expect from a mother and a wife. And so that that really was like that overriding story. And so my mentor is like, okay, so now there was a point where, I was debating leaving, like I was debating not leaving because I had already decided I was going to leave. I was debating not leaving, and it was because my son and his girlfriend told me they were having a baby. And I was like,
Mm.
like, I was like inside of me, like trying to figure out how and when to tell my kids that I was leaving. And then they dropped this bomb. Everybody had something going on at that time. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't now. Like, I can't. This is like bringing out those, I guess, the fear of losing all the things that I had wanted for my marriage, for my life. I wanted to be that, couple. We're all together and grandma and grandpa's house, and the grandkids come over. And when they are like, well, you're about to be grandparents, I'm like, no, not now. Like, they didn't know what I was about to do.
Of course.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, why now? Why now? And I'm crying to my mentor, like, oh my gosh. Like, she's like, well, you know, thinking back to these stories your family tells, like, what stories do you want your grandchildren to hear? What kind of example do you want to be for them? What are the stories that you want them to tell about you, to help shape what they decide to do with their life, how they can move through this world, and what they're comfortable doing? And so that was really powerful in reshaping, just really thinking like I can that's turned out to be a granddaughter. I can show my granddaughter that, like, okay, 47 years old. I left at I was going to be 48 that month when I left. And I can show her that you can prioritize yourself as a woman, that you can um, choose your own happiness, that you can do difficult things, that you can, you know, break through barriers and boundaries that other people have set for you. There's so many ways in which leaving carved out a new pathway and opportunities for her and for, anybody who may come behind in the family. to be able to say, you know what, we don't have to be that story. We don't have to follow in that path, those ideals, and there are other things that we can do.
And as you're saying that, I'm thinking about Dan Savage. Are you familiar with that gentleman?
No.
Dan Savage is very outspoken.
Hmm.
He's a gay gentleman.
Hmm.
He's been married to his husband a long time. I believe they're now playing with an open marriage. What I heard him interviewed on a podcast, and I liked what he said about, because I'm thinking about your granddaughter, and I'm thinking there's these expectations that families pass down, whether because it's culture, religion, the family dynamic, whatever it is, the ethos they've been operating under. And there's measures of success. Like, what does
Yep.
success mean? Well, success, when you do your marriage vows, or death do us
Hmm.
part. So
Hmm.
I'm thinking, as you're talking about your granddaughter, she gets to realize that sometimes you do things and it's not a failure, it's just a
Yep.
change. You're shifting gears, you're changing lanes, and it's not a failure.
Yep.
Because Dan Savage was saying, isn't it sad that in our society, death do us part is the only measure of success in a
Hmm.
relationship? And he's like, why? Like, every single day we wake up and look at our partner and say, do you want to do this again today? And then you do it again, and then another week and another year, and you do it every day. It's a choice. And then sometimes you realize, I mean, there's someone in my life who raised 3 beautiful kiddos, and then it was like, all right, we're going different ways
Hmm.
now. And it didn't make it unsuccessful. They weren't a failure
Hmm.
because of it. They had 3 beautiful kids. And now they get in it, so it's like their family got bigger and it's growing in a different way, and different people have been introduced and made the family even more dynamic and beautiful. So it's not that anyone is a failure unless that's what someone is telling you it is. And again, you don't have to accept that
Yeah.
narrative. That's their story, that's their perspective. I don't have to take that on. Cuz to me, I mean, you have now a grandbaby and you've got beautiful kids, and you've done so much, and none of it was a failure. It was just like, we're changing lanes
Yeah.
now.
I would say 100%. I think that's part of what I would say part of the acceptance I've had in my healing is to look and say my marriage wasn't a failure. I was married for 27 years. That is not a failure. That's a lot of successes. There were many, many challenges. I
Mhm.
mean, getting married, I got married at 22. We were both 20. He was 21, I was 22. Um, so as you can imagine, like finishing education, um, starting our careers, I mean, having $15 in the bank one day, and things like financial challenges, raising our kids, making decisions about where they would go to school and where we would live and buying a house and all those things. We did it all, and a lot of
Mhm.
times we did it very well. We hosted great parties. We had lots of good friends. We had really a lot of good times, a lot of successes. And so I don't look at it as a failure. I look at it as it's over. Many years into the marriage, we joked and were like, oh yeah, we're going to retire one day. We're going to retire from marriage. And it was kind of a lighthearted joke, like just to say, like you could end it and just be like, thank you, it's been great. See you soon. It didn't quite go that way, but that is a way of looking at it.
Tell me about when you realized this isn't the right place for me
Hmm.
anymore, or this isn't where I want to be. And for me, it was a book. I know there were other things.
Hmm.
And when I read the book, The Midnight Library, there was a part in it where I thought, if I stay with this person, either he's giving up his dream or I'm giving up my dream. I don't think this is going to work. And so it was like and then other things fell into place after that. But that was a really big moment for me. Tell me about the moment where you realized this is not the right relationship for me anymore.
Yeah, I would say there were a lot of moments, like just like when you think of those little light bulbs, little like you see kind of what you described, like looking into the future a little bit. Um, I think there were times like there was a lot of my marriage where I felt like a wife has her husband's back. You are, you're ride or die for your man, um, and that's what I wanted to be. But when for me, because that was my measure, when I could no longer defend some of the things he was doing or saying or the ways in which he was moving through the world, I was like, I'm not I'm not in his corner anymore. Like I'm not his
Mm.
person. I can't stand behind him and say, yeah, that's my man. I couldn't, I wasn't in his corner anymore. And that wasn't fair to me. It wasn't fair to him. Um, whatever he wanted to do with his life or how he wanted to move through the world, I felt that um, he probably should have somebody who had his back. And that wasn't me anymore. Another, I would say, light bulb, moment for me was realizing that some of the things he was doing, the ways in which he was forming relationships or damaging relationships, and the way he was dealing with people was going to directly impact me and how I was going to be connected with friends, with family, with my children. My relationships with almost everybody was me and him with those people. So, most of the time, if I was with my kids, it was he and I, and the kids. Or, they were already adults by this time and, they'd come home to visit. And it wasn't, if they're in town for 2 days, they're going to spend time with both of us. There's not enough time for us to individually see each other. There are, people in the family, we'd spend time together. It was always all together. And those relationships were defined by, how I interacted with them and how he interacted with them. And I wasn't always in agreement with how he was interacting with people. And it was going to impact me. It was going to impact my relationships with um, those people I loved and cared for the rest of my life. And I wanted to have real, authentic relationships that I was responsible for, and that I um, I was putting into it and getting out of it what I wanted, and not having to deal with the repercussions of the way he interacted. And repercussions is, a negative term, but there were some negative interactions that I felt like, that's going to come back on me. Like that's going to impact how I deal with people and how they deal with me and whether I see them often or not.
What about the emotions? Tell me about the emotions you were feeling after that realization. What came up for you and how did you navigate how you were feeling?
Oh, I mean, I went through all the emotions, really all of them. I mean, there was that fear, not so I never really had a fear like I'm going to be alone, I'm going to be destitute, any of that kind of stuff. I had the fear of um disappointing people. I had the fear of
Mm.
all the work it was going to take to start over. Um I grieved before I ever left. I was grieving what I knew was never going to be. I was
Mm.
looking ahead like I'm going to lose friends. I'm going to lose out on the future I thought I had. I'm going to lose out on um the vision I had of myself. I always just wanted to be like little wifey, and then I wanted to be little grandma, and I wanted to be like that's what I wanted to be. And
Yeah.
and I was like, that's just not going to be like, not to say I could never get married again, but I wanted that long term marriage, that forever marriage. So I had some shame around that. I had
Mm.
really, because we had almost grown up together. I met him our first date. I was 16, he was 15. He couldn't even drive. So I had this like sense of obligation to him, like care, like what is this gonna do to him? I was really, really scared for that, as I felt just really responsible for him and what happened to him. And so there was guilt around that. So
Did you journal or get a I would tell you what, my last breakup, I immediately called and I need a therapist immediately. Like for me, because for me, I journal a lot. I have my girlfriends, and then there's a point where you want someone that knows nothing
Yes.
about you or the other person to
Mhm.
just come in and say, I don't care about all that. Here's what I want you to think about. And I was like, that's not what I want to talk about. But my therapist, like, he was able to go,
Mhm.
no, we're going to thought, and I was like, oh, I guess this was helpful. So for me, therapy is always my answer. I walked a lot outside and just kind of listened to music and process my feelings as I walked, journaling. So for you, what was it and how you handled those emotions?
Yeah, so because I had thought really for a long time about leaving, I had a really long time to process. And then it got even longer
Mm.
because I told him I was leaving in January of 2020, and I started looking for a place to live, and I have a pit bull, so that's not always easy to have somebody rent to you. And so I was looking and like planning. I hadn't told the kids, and then COVID hit.
Mm.
and, and then I was like, "Oops, just kidding." But
I guess I'm
yes,
sane.
so that like really lengthened the process. I didn't end up leaving until August of 2021.
Ooh.
So it was a long time. It was a lot of processing. I did start therapy. I have never done therapy in my life. And I started seeing a therapist online. And
Isn't online therapy the
it is, I
best?
loved it.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I was a therapist for a short time, and I had my office
Mhm.
perfectly
Mhm.
decorated, and I liked seeing the people, and at the same time, it's the parking, and you gotta drive there, and then you gotta drive home, and there's a lot of time invested. That online stuff, it's like, I'm in the house, my appointment is in 5 minutes, I flip open the computer, oh, it's great!
Yeah.
And if you're not, like, feeling somebody, like, the vibe isn't right, or you do 4 sessions, and I was like, I think I got what I needed from that person. Now I'm gonna go, and then when I needed help another time, I found a different therapist. I think the online therapy thing is
It
amazing.
is. It is. I met her in person and then
Oh,
we switched to online just as it just made the appointments easier. But I did meet her in
yeah.
person, so that was helpful. Just to kind of just get a sense of the person. Um, it was helpful in processing what I was feeling and the sense of obligation I felt I had was that was a real big thing. Really just saying like he's a grown man, just really processing what I'm
Mhm.
responsible for, what I can control, which clearly is very
Yeah.
little. Yeah, like
Yeah.
it boiled down to you can control what you say and what you do with
And how
and
you
what you do with your
react. Yeah.
body. That's it. What you can say and like what you do with this body. That's it. That's it. There's
Yeah.
really nothing else. And so like really thinking about myself in terms of ego, which I had never really gone down that scary rabbit hole.
Say more about was
Yeah.
that with the therapist that guided you
Yes.
through that?
Yes, that was really like wow. Just thinking about the reasons I stayed and the things I was trying to protect and the way in which I was trying to I felt responsible like well if I leave and he doesn't have a great relationship with the kids like that's going to be my fault and I
Mm.
felt like I hadn't left years earlier not because I was um like fearful of um I guess like leaving my kids, but I was really kind of like, oh well, how was their relationship going to be? I kind of felt like I was controlling some of that, or that I was managing. And she's like, you weren't controlling any of it. That's all a deception. That's your ego thinking that you are controlling, that you are having an impact on any of this stuff. And really, if you get out of the way, you can let him form his own relationships. You can let him, like your ego is telling you that you can weave or create some sort of reality, and you're not doing any of that. And so,
Oh,
yeah.
go ahead. I was just gonna say it makes me think of a podcast I love called We Can Do Hard
Hmm.
Things, and Abby Wambach and Glennon Doyle are together, and she went through a divorce and had 3 kids and has 3 kids. And it was hard, yes. Like
Hmm.
their whole everybody's lives
Yeah.
were turned
Yeah.
upside down. And they all
Yeah.
survived. They and I think the most important thing is talking about those feelings. When they come up, rather than avoiding him, not talking about him, not recognizing him. Tell me, because I remember, I think she's like would say something to the kids, and they're like, "It's really hard having two houses
Yeah.
sometimes. Like they don't want to go to two
Yeah.
houses. That's the reality. I get that. Let's talk about it, you know, because it's like this is now our new reality, and it does feel not ideal.
Yeah.
And let's talk about it. So I think if it's, I mean, and that's it, honestly, that's resilience, life.
Yeah.
I think about that. I was with my parents a couple weekends ago, and we were talking about I have to move out of this apartment. I've basically house poor at this point, and I love this spot. And it's just it's priced me right on out of here, and it feels sad. And I don't own it. And I know that nothing in this life is permanent. Literally nothing. Like we have to learn to adjust. And I liked what you said about you were almost processing and grieving beforehand. And I was thinking about moving because sometimes I wake up in the morning, I'm like, I'm really sad I have to leave this place. And it is the reality that's happening. So I need to get my head in the game, process those feelings, and plan for the next adventure, you know. So it is, thank goodness for therapy
Yeah.
and having people to talk to. And
There's
who do we got?
Brooke. We got Brooke right here.
Hi, Brooke. What are you doing,
Let's
Brooke?
give too much attention away from Brooke. Yeah, I think really the therapy was like to help me is I had a metaphor like there was this wall of fire. Like I was choking. I was
Sandra and I are drinking. She's got her white wine. I've got my Golden Monkey, which is my favorite
no.
beer. I've tried a lot of different beers. I'm a craft brew snob, but this is my favorite beer. We've got dogs in the house. We are just living our best lives over here.
But like, okay, I have my white wine here. I just bought something new. I was looking for a Spanish wine, so I went to Whole Foods. I don't know what this is. It's something I just tried.
Nice.
But anyway, so I had this like vision of like a wall of fire. And I'm on this side, and I know if I stay here, I'm gonna die. I'm choking over here. Like this is I'm on this side.
Wow, that is a powerful metaphor,
Yes,
Sandra. Wow.
it is. And I know I have to get to the other side, but going through that fire is going to be more painful than choking over here in this smoke. Like I know the pain is coming, and so I'm standing behind this wall of fire for a long time. Like I have to do this, and so therapy definitely helped me, get through it, and like you have to do it. You have to survive this, and did some journaling. So someone shared this with me. This little book. I dusted it off to bring it. It's called Manifest, a self-study guide for centering joy and liberation. Kelly Nicole Palmer. She is on Instagram. I found her online.
It looks familiar.
So there's.
How did you find it? Did someone recommend
my friend
it?
mentor mailed it to me.
Okay.
And it has these prompts. I'm not a big journaler, but the prompts are really good, and there's affirmations in here as well. And the way in which I journaled, I can just show you like kind of what I did. I did this art journaling where I just did like words and pictures like based on the prompts, just because it was easier for me to approach than like a narrative writing. That just seemed like too much for me. And so like this one is.
I'm glad you pointed that out, because journaling, I was on a different call earlier today, and the gal that was co-facilitating with me brought up journaling, and she opened her journal, and I was like, what is happening right now? Because there's all these different colors, and it was kind of, to me, looked disorganized because I'm the very neat narrative person. What I love about journaling, you make it your own. Like you don't have to follow a protocol.
You don't need a fancy journal. Like, you don't need anything. You can get a spiral notebook,
do colors and shapes, and you can. And I like that you're using prompts. Whereas for me, I just wake up and go, "Whoo, I am feeling tired today," or "Oh my god," And I'm literally talking to my best friend, even though it's just me, and that's how I do it. But everyone does it different, and that's beautiful. It's however you want to do your journal. I don't think there's a set way. When people are like, well, journaling, what do you do? I can tell you some of the ways you can do it. You get to do whatever you want to do.
it was so important. It was the first time in my life I had really dedicated time to that. I had
Hmm.
done some writing.
What did you feel coming out, like, I gotta say, I used to write in my diary from age 13 until I was, like, 26, and then I kinda fell off because life gets busy and you're working, like, 3 jobs and going to graduate school and whatever, but and then I would say October of maybe, like, a couple years ago, I thought, this journaling thing is coming up a lot, I think I'm gonna do this again," and I thought rather than when I was younger and I was a kid, it was always who, what, where, when, it was very, like, it was just
A daily
talking
log.
about, yeah, it was like who did what and who said what, and then I thought, I'm only going to talk about my feelings. If something happens, I'm not even going to describe the description or the whole situation and like write a screenplay about it. I'm just going to say how it made me feel, and it made a huge difference, especially after the breakup. What for you, as you close it up at the end of the morning or whenever you choose to journal, like what feeling did you have coming out of a journaling session?
Say, um, it was it was definitely it gave me hope. It gave me a lot of hope.
Oh, nice.
I felt
Okay.
like the prompts, these particular prompts, had me looking forward, and that was really critical for me. Always looking forward because the end of that kind of lengthy marriage and like so wrapped up in my identity because I spent my teens, my 20s, my 30s, and most of my 40s with the same person. And really just um if I spent a lot of time dwelling on that, it would take away from whatever's left. I mean, whether I'm going to live 10 more years, 20 more, it doesn't matter. I wanted to not waste any more time um, on, um, I guess, ruminating over what happened, what went wrong, and all those things. And it just really did not seem like a valuable or productive use of my time. And so the journaling made me centered me in looking forward in what I wanted, what life I wanted to create, who I wanted to have in my circle, because it was really an opportunity to redefine everything. My married
Mm.
friends, pretty much none of them are around anymore. The couples friends, I really have none of those people in my life right now. Um, no heart.
How does that make you feel?
Oh well, I was sad about it, but I feel like the grief happened before I knew it was going to happen. I
Mm.
knew. So I'm good now, but I grieved that that was coming. Um, as I left and was talking with them and connecting with them, I was feeling already this separation, within myself because I knew that their husbands were friends with my husband and that those just it was just gonna not be compatible, and it was not personal, it was not I didn't feel like they were gonna intentionally, stop calling me, but I knew it would happen. I knew it would happen over time. And there was that grieving of that, but it had to happen as well because I wanted to have that separation from my ex-husband. I didn't want him involved in any way. I didn't want him to have knowledge of my life because I didn't want his opinion. I didn't want his advice. I wanted to be my own person and be responsible for my own decisions. I wanted to totally accept the life I was creating to, if I fall and, scrape my knee, that it was going to be me. If I was going to be broke, it was going to be on me. If I was going to make a wrong decision, I wanted to have 100% control over my own life, the kind of life I wanted to make, whether it was mistakes or whether it was, you know, problems that I got into or whatever. It just had to be mine. That was probably my most urgent need, that everything be mine, that I just own it, the good and bad. And having people in my life that we had in common would have been problematic. And I feel like it's just, no, not, I don't really want that involvement.
It's starting
It is.
over, and sometimes that's okay to refresh and reset and
Yeah.
rebuild. Explain for like when the switch happened. I feel like and you did have some time to grieve
Hmm.
and process this probably more than some, and I mean, who knows? Everyone's situation is different. Mine was very sudden. It was
Yeah.
like, "And we're
Yeah.
broken up." And then
Hmm.
all of a sudden, you don't talk to someone every day, and even though there were bad things, you think about the good things and you miss that person. So for me, there was a grieving point, and that's why you get a coach or you get a therapist,
Hmm.
and you're like, I need to process this grief and this
Yeah.
loss and these feelings. What am I going to do with these? Explain when you had the shift, because I know I did. I'm sure every woman that has rebuilt goes, and it's time to come back, stand up, and figure out what's next. Whether it's I'm going to change careers, I'm going to move, I'm going to get all new friends, I'm going to go back to school. Like there's a point where you go, that's gone. Like I grieved it, I took care of it, I processed it, I did what I needed to do with those feelings. Explain that moment for you and then how you navigated and envisioned into and then made it into a reality what this next chapter is going to be for you.
Yeah. Interestingly, that happened for me the day I moved in my new place when I moved out. It was, it
Nice.
was, that was, I won't say immediate, but that was the day because I had so long the therapy, journaling, friends. I had the therapist, and I had my mentor, which I mean, you need all the people. And then two of my very
Mhm.
best friends are actually clinical psychologists. So, I
Convenient.
know how convenient is that. So, I mean, I had the friend that you met that when we met,
Mhm.
the friend I was with,
Amazing grounded
yes,
woman.
amazing, very grounded, very smart, and we've known each other and the friend group that I have since middle school. People who come in my life
That's
tend to
fun.
stay in my life for a very long time. So I gotta be careful who comes into my life because they tend to stay. Um, but having all of that and leading up to it and having those tears and having all of those deep moments of depression, anxiety, like all the feelings that you go through, any serious loss, that was all before I left. That was all before I left, and when I moved in my new place, I took my clothes and, like, the I took the furniture from the spare bedroom, which none of it worked. The tall dressers, I rented this amazing house in this really nice neighborhood, really close to Lake Michigan. I could walk down there. It was just really nice. But the house was
Nice.
built in 18 something, and the floors weren't, like, really straight, so the dressers were tipping over, so I had to get rid of them. The box spring couldn't fit up the narrow stairs, so I ended up it just all went on the curb, so really I took my clothes, my desk, my bike, my car. That was pretty much it. So I had to replace everything.
You like a college kid.
That's my dad actually gave me a pack of ramen noodles. I was like, Dad, I'm not moving in the dorms. I know how to cook. I've been cooking for a family for 27 years. I don't need ramen noodles. But thank you. It did feel like moving in the dorms, which it's hilarious
Thanks
that you
for
say that because I had this recurring dream for years that I was moving into a dorm.
no.
Yes. I was moving into a dorm, and it was different dorm every time, a different experience, a different reason why I was there, but I was just always moving into the dorms. And um and I had kind of picked apart that dream. My friend that you met is she's really into dreams, and we talked through those things.
Cool.
Yes. Meaning
What was the
the
conclusion?
conclusion was that that period of time where I moved into the dorms when I was graduated from high school was the only time I felt completely free because I had left from my father's house, my
Mhm.
parents' house, and that strict upbringing. And I moved into the dorms, and my ex husband was not going to school with me. we actually broke up for a brief period of time, and he also went off to the army and all these other things, so he was gone. My dad wasn't, controlling what I was doing, and that was just this moment of, like, I was in charge of myself. I made all my decisions. I didn't have to ask anybody. It was just this period of time. I didn't have to consult with anybody about what I ate and where I went and, like, what do you want for dinner? It was just like I was in charge of my life. And so that recurring dream was just really that longing for that feeling. And it didn't have to be a divorce. It did in my case. It doesn't have to be a divorce for everybody, but in my case, I was never going to feel like that within the marriage that I had with the person I was with. Like, I was never going to have that feeling, that sense of freedom that I experienced, and the way in which I wanted to operate my life and how I wanted to feel in my own, like, day to day life. So yeah, that recurring dream was happening, and I have not had that dream since I left. I
That is so cool.
not have not had that dream. I probably had it no less than 10 times through the years, and have not had that dream once. And I left this year. It'll be 4 years in August. It'll be 4 years since I left.
And my guess is your family has not fallen apart. Your
No,
kiddos still love
no,
you. They're still
everything's
thriving.
good. Everything's good. It was, my children have been incredible about this whole process. I mean, it is an inconvenience, even though they're adults. Holidays and all of that stuff is adds extra, stop and extra things they got to do to see both of us. And so, it's been some work, but they're good. I have this beautiful granddaughter who just, I worried so much about the grandma and grandpa thing, and I have been given this really amazing gift of having her to myself. She gets to know me, not me and
Yeah.
him, not me with him, not how he treats me, and to see that, which wasn't always positive. She doesn't have to see any of that. She gets to just see me, and we spend time together, just she and I. And she has this, like, she loves me, I love her, and it would have never been like that. She would have known a different version of me. And so I love that.
Sure.
I just absolutely love that.
Were there any obstacles in this journey? I mean, when I met you, I'm looking at a vibrant, powerful, happy, free woman,
Hmm.
just your spirit. And I'm guessing that as you've been rebuilding this new chapter, there may have been some moments that weren't
Yeah.
great. And how did you deal with those or overcome those?
Yeah. I think um, there were some financial things, more so for I would say for my future, looking forward to say, like, okay, am I ever going to be able to retire now? Like, this impacts so many
Yeah.
things. So I have
Sure.
worries, a little, bit of worry about that. It doesn't rule my
I hear
thinking,
that.
but I have some worries about that. Um, I I can say the one thing that is probably the persistent struggle is um, really having not having that comfort of having that built-in social network of, like, when you're
Mm,
married, you have your husband. What are we doing this weekend? What is
sure.
coming up? And we got this wedding, and we got this barbecue, and we got like all that disappeared. Like, social calendar, it is gone. It is, you're not getting I wasn't. I don't know how other people, experience this, but I wasn't getting we're having a barbecue. I wasn't getting those invites anymore. I guess they didn't know, like, are they gonna invite us? Are they gonna invite him? Are they gonna do, like, that kind of thing? So, um, like, really having to learn to be alone, which I'm gotten
Yeah.
very comfortable with that. Doing things alone, going out alone, because I was not just gonna be like, okay, and now I got nothing, and I'm just gonna curl up and watch Netflix every single night for the rest of the month. I don't even watch TV. I don't watch TV, so there's that. Like, what am I gonna do?
Hmm.
So just learning to, like, create my own world of, you know, enjoying my own company, like that's a struggle, and sometimes it's like frustrating. Is you have friends. I have friends. I have new friends. I have friends that were my own friends, separate from my married friends, and but they aren't always in the same position. Like some of them have kids still at home. Some of them have partners. Some of them have um, just they're just in a different stage, and so you don't have any reliable person. So that really has been or was it's becoming less of a challenge for me, but that becomes difficult. Um, Deciding how you are, like renting. Do I want to keep renting? I end up buying a house, and sometimes that's really hard. I'm like, why did I do this? Like, like it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but
Yeah.
um, these decisions like that they become difficult. Just little things like I had a car accident, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is like where you would like call your husband, but I called my son, and he was like, I'll be right there. And he's great.
Aw.
He showed up like 10 minutes flat with his whole family. And I'm like, why don't you bring everybody? He was like, I don't know. Mom's in trouble. Let's go. So they all showed up, and it really was comforting because I'm like, I don't have to have a husband to do anything really. There's always somebody. There's always somebody
Yeah.
you can pay to do things around the house, like those kind of things. For me, those problems were easy to solve. And really, it's been pretty smooth. I think the emotional journey really happened for me before. And I did want to share, like, you met me singing, and part of my journaling was like creating, thinking about what life I was going to create, and music kept coming up.
Hmm.
And like, what brings you joy, like those kind of things, like music. And my mentor also was like, if you're not creating, you're not living. You're just surviving. So she's like, what are you going to create? What are you going to do? Like, what are you going to fill your life with now that like so much of your life was devoted? And I was like, I mean, a lot of people in my life would tell you, like, I was like that devoted wife. I was like baking and cleaning and like still working full time, but I was wifey. I was wifey doing all the things, and trying to create, a nice home and those kind of things. But like, what are you gonna do now? Like, what are you gonna fill your life with? And I'm just like, I've always wanted to sing. I want to surround myself with um, a community of creative people doing things, people, not just musicians, but musicians and artists and people who are just doing things that they want to do, creating um, beauty and art and life. So that was intentional. And so I did spend a lot of my time, and that was a little bit of a barrier too, like getting up my nerve to approach people and connect with people about singing and music and art and all of those things. It really it took all of my courage to start to make those connections and say, you know what? It went from like, I want to sing, I sometimes sing, to I'm a singer. Like that took a lot of courage, and not being apologetic about it. Oh, no pun intended, but just really saying, this is what I'm doing. And I do fight the self doubt still. Sometimes I go and I'm like, this is stupid. I just, I'm too over this. I'm just starting out. You know, I still battle those thoughts in my own head. I battle whether, I'm good enough, or whether somebody's just being
Mhm.
nice. Like, oh, they're just doing that because they're being nice and not because they think I'm good. And like, I battle that. That's been huge.
That is bananas. I have a girlfriend of mine. She's from Morocco, lives in Morocco. We went to college together in
Mhm.
Minnesota, of all
Mhm.
places. And she has invited me, and I'm so honored to be a part of her program called Lead. And she has these women that are entrepreneurs and business owners and CEOs, and they public speak, and they're doing presenting, and they don't feel super confident in presenting in English.
Mhm.
It's not their first language, and they're very
Yes.
proficient in English and still have. But the whole lesson this morning was about imposter syndrome. So as you're
Yes.
talking, I was like,
Yeah.
This is very familiar. And we basically just talked about, whatever you think is then what you start feeling. And so if you're starting to feel like you're an imposter, I don't belong here, I'm not good enough. Why? Well, it can't be just because I'm talented. I just got lucky, or this person's being
Mhm.
nice and they're letting me sing. And it's rewinding. What's the thought that I'm having? And this thought that I'm having, is it true?
Yeah.
Well, it feels true. Yes, but do you know that it's absolutely true? Well, no. And how does it make you feel when you feel that feeling? Well, it makes me feel, XYZ. What would it feel like if I let go of this thought and then to turn that thought around? It's Byron Katie's
Mhm.
work called The Work.
Mhm.
But anyway, we were walking through that because as you were talking, I was thinking about it because we
Yeah.
all of us, and then when that comes up for me, because I started my coaching business, I'm 44, and I thought, it's just something that's been on my heart my whole life. I've always wanted to serve women. I love working with women. It's fun for me. I love hearing their stories, joking around, making them feel more positive and powerful,
Mhm.
and so being able to create a business around that, and at the same time, sometimes you do have the
Yeah.
self-doubts, and then I remind myself of people that started businesses in their 40s and
Mhm.
60s, and recently I saw a guy that graduated with his master's degree at
Yeah.
82, and I was like, "You know what? It is never too
I
late."
know. I love those stories, and I try to feed myself those stories because it
Right?
is
Yeah.
it is so damaging, so limiting when you do that. And I don't stay in that space, but it creeps up. And it's like this
Absolutely. Yes,
cycle
of
is
course.
this cycle. I battled with that just this weekend. I was like, oh, this is dumb. I should just be at somebody's barbecue just sitting, in a
Aw.
chair. I shouldn't be
I was
out.
gonna ask you, when is your loneliest time? And I say that because for me it's Sundays, and as I was thinking about it, I thought, why Sundays? And it brought me back to your dreams where like something in your
Mhm.
past happened, and that you for me Sundays, because I think it was when I still lived at home with
Mhm.
my mom and dad, and my brother was still in the house. He's younger than me, but he moved out before I did. Um, Sundays were the day we went grocery shopping. We get some odds and ends, some salads and whatever, and a little pasta. And my mom would kind of make just so whatever dinner was kind of our like cheat
Yeah.
dinner, whatever Sunday evening. We didn't really cook. We just almost snacked in a
Yeah.
way. And mom and dad would put on the 60 minutes, and I would go do my homework. But it was just a very like family oriented. And even if I wasn't in the same room, I always knew my parents were
Yeah.
nearby, my brother was nearby. It felt like a very family-oriented day,
Mhm.
and I oftentimes feel sad on
Yeah.
Sundays, and then I'll end up watching some love story on Netflix or something, and I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I just wonder if you have things that trigger you or
Yeah.
that your lonely moments.
Sundays are kind of hard. Now that you mention it, they are a little bit like that because it's like you're not really going out on a Sunday, you
Yes,
know.
there's nothing else going
Yeah.
on. You're not working, you don't have
Yeah.
plans.
And then
Yeah.
people who I have, in my life who have families and those they're doing their family stuff. And it's just like, okay, what are all the
Yeah,
single people
that's how I
doing? They're
feel.
just at home by themselves. And I'm not watching TV. It's just like, okay, what am I doing? Like, yeah. So I get busy with different things. It's interesting though. My therapist was like, make your home feel like a home. Just you
Yes,
cook
cozy,
cook something you
comfortable.
like, or if you want to, fill your house with the smells and the sounds. Play your music, light your candle, whatever you have to
Sing.
do. Yes, just make your space how you want it to be. Make it feel comfortable. Make it feel like home because you're gonna have a level of being homesick for whatever that feeling is, whether it be that, like you said, your parents' home or like your married home where, Sundays would be like the kids hanging out and
The kids
yeah,
are at home,
kids
yeah.
are at home and your husband's in the other room or you might be in the same room. Those Sundays were slow and or whatever day and
Comfortable.
comfortable or
Yeah,
whatever day it might be. And so
sure.
in those moments, it's like create the space you want to be in and not in an expensive way, just in whatever way that you can afford to do that. I just
Well, one of the questions I have for you is when you look back at where you were when you're like, "Oh my god, I can't tell my family now I'm about to have a
mhm, mhm.
grandbaby," and I can't flip this family upside down. And
Mhm.
your heart was probably racing. You're nervous. Like, when should I say something? Should I say
Yeah.
something? And then when you do, you're like, wow, this is real. I'm moving out and my whole life is about to be completely different to where you are now. How long has it been?
I
Four,
left
four or
4
5?
years ago. I've been
Okay.
divorced like 2 years. Yeah.
If you could tell yourself, whisper in her ear, hey girl, and just give her like fast forward 4 years from now, this is how you're gonna feel. This is what you're going to experience. Hang in there. Cause yeah, this
Mhm.
sucks right now. And I promise you, because I'm thinking about this woman I talked to. Her father unfortunately passed. She became a single mom and she got a divorce all in 1 month. And she said, but she started a business and now she's like living her best life. But in the moment, you're like, there was literally a death in the family and my whole life is literally
Mhm.
flipped on its
Mhm.
side. So when you're in that versus where you are now, what would you whisper in yourself's ear to say, hang in there because?
Yeah. Oh, I wish I'd go back and help that girl out. I really do because there's so much ahead. And
Mm,
the 27 years of being married, it is, my friend described, she used this word. I was like, I just got to steal it from you. It's a vapor. It is a vapor. It it's seems long, but it's like I just remember some episodes of it. I don't feel the weight of 27 years anymore. There's so much ahead. There's so much ahead. So I would tell myself at that point, like, there's so much ahead. You're going to meet so many great people. You're going to experience things that you would have never, ever experienced. I mean, you name it, you can imagine. Like, I had never dated. I had never had the joy of, like, meeting someone out as an adult. I
mm,
had the little high school, people like, oh, he's cute and whatever. I had never had that joy of, like, meeting new people, um, building really strong, authentic relationships. Like, you're going to have stronger relationships with your kids, with your granddaughter than you ever would have had with your sister. You're going to do things you would have never, ever been able to do as a person
mm,
in that marriage. And go for those things. Everything that you would not have been able to do, go for it. Not because
mm.
someone else wouldn't let you or because you're trying to prove anything, but look at the opportunity that this presents. It opens up so many possibilities of things that would not have been possible in your marriage. In and for everybody, that's different. But for me, like, there are things I could have never done. Even the singing, would have never been able to do that in the context of my marriage. It would not have happened. It First it was the kids, and now here's this point in your life where your kids are adults, but would have been out of the comfort zone for your husband to have you out singing, meeting people, being at bars late, all the networking it takes to make connections. You got to stay, you got to drink, you got to hang out, you got to meet people. And that's all the things that I'm doing now that I would not have been able to do in the context of my marriage. And so for me, it's just been amazing. And I would love to tell that person, yeah, go for all those things. It's going to be great. It's going to feel amazing to create a new life. It's going to feel amazing to do things that are your own decision, and to, like, pat yourself on the back for when it goes well and learn your own lessons. And you don't have to hear somebody else tell you about what went wrong and how they feel about it. You just have to deal with yourself, which is really great. You're only managing your own emotions about a situation. You're not managing another person. Like, there's so much joy in that. And um, eat what you want to eat. You don't have to put
When you
salt
want to
when
eat.
you want to eat or don't eat. Like, you don't salt with anybody. Like, what are we going to eat? That's like the one thing about married life I could have done without. What are we going to eat? I just cannot. So food has always been a big thing for me. So now it's like, you know what? If I want to eat a handful of grapes and some chocolate chips and Like, that is gonna be dinner. It's great. It's amazing. It's amazing.
I listened to this podcast. It has since discontinued. It was basically two girls bantering, and the one girl brought up girl
Mhm.
dinners or girl meals, something like
Yeah,
that.
girl dinner.
And I was curious. Yeah, and I was curious, and then as I was listening, I was like, "Oh yeah,"
Yeah.
because my dad, when he goes out of town, my mom is tuna from a can and some avocado and maybe some crackers,
Yeah.
And I think about me, somebody will be like a gentleman will be like, "Well, what are you gonna have for dinner? Or what'd you have for dinner?" And I'm like, "I had a beer and I roasted some vegetables. That was good enough."
Yeah.
Or I ate a couple spoonfuls of high protein cottage cheese and some pineapple.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah.
Like I don't need the whole thing.
Yeah. If you see, I often post girl dinner on my Instagram because I just
That's
love it.
awesome.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And like I stopped eating meat, which probably would have been
Oh,
difficult to do married because it's
sure.
like you have another person, you're cooking and you're buying
Yep.
groceries. There's just so many things. And so like for me, it's like really amazing. Like, yeah, I might open a can of chickpeas and eat some toast. And then just like, oh shoot, I need to get some protein. That's about it. Yeah, that's the girl dinner is
I think about
real.
even I've never lived with anyone, so I think about I wake up in the morning and I put on a podcast. I'm making my coffee. Like I don't have to talk to anybody right away in the morning because I don't want to. And then at night, I'm brushing my teeth. I'm listening to a podcast. Like I have so many routines, and sometimes I think, man, if I live with somebody, there'd be a lot of things that would change for me. And at the same time, I think at almost 45, if I did meet someone, there'd have to be an understanding that I've been on my own for
Yeah.
20 odd
Mhm.
years. We're probably not going to line up in every way. We add value to each other's lives and want to be together. We might have to separate some things because I'm used to doing it my way. So,
Yeah, and I'm probably the opposite. Like, you gotta understand, I had so many years of having to negotiate with someone else about how the day to day was going to be. Was there going to be
mhm.
music playing? Was the TV on? The TV was on constantly. I could be here for a month and never have the TV on. Ever. I have a TV in my room. I'm
Girl,
not sure it
yeah.
even works. I don't. What?
I don't even have one in my bedroom. If
Yeah.
somebody comes up and they want it, no, the TV's in the living room. And then when we're tired, we go to bed.
Right. There's so many things. Like someone would have to understand. Like I had so many years of that negotiation of what the day is and the morning
Yeah.
routines to everything that right now I'm just doing me. I'm doing me and my day
Mhm.
to day is how I want it to be. So that's really valuable to me. That's what's really, really important is creating the life I want every single day from what I eat to what I'm listening to, pursuing music. And if I want to go out 4 nights a week to go hear live music and connect with people and yeah, make new friends and stick around after. And hi, I'm Sandra and I'm a singer. And
Yeah.
tell me about what you do and like having those conversations. This is the life
Yeah.
I'm choosing and I love it.
I love that for you. I have if people sign up for my email list, I have this free video.
Hmm.
And one of them is like an inventory of your life. Like, what do I really want?
Yeah,
Like now that I've decided to step out of this relationship and be done and rebuild. eh, Do I like where I'm living?
yeah,
Do I mean, there was one relationship I ended that I literally geographically moved across the
yeah.
country. I was like, goodbye. I need to completely reset and relocate.
Hmm.
And that was what I needed.
Yeah,
Some people decide like you, yeah, I'm going to keep a financially stable career or whatever it is. And I'm going to pursue a dream. I've been,
yeah,
and there's certain, like I have a girlfriend of mine. She always wanted to have horses. And I mean, she is in a relationship. The relationship she was in previous, that wasn't in the
no,
cards. And now
no,
she's living her best life with a guy who also wants to kind of be like a country person and have horses and do all those things. So I think you have to do a life assessment and say,
yes,
what do I want?
yeah,
What is going to light me up? And that creativity piece that you talked about, I think that I don't, like you said, it doesn't matter if you're a singer. I wouldn't do
yeah,
that. For me, it's more podcasting and starting a coaching business. That's how I get to be creative and design my own
Mhm.
website. And that's
Yeah.
my fun.
Yeah.
So it's like really reassessing what feels like it's going to light you up
Yes.
and make you feel alive again. And I'm very excited that I think it's amazing. So, just out of curiosity, if folks are ever in the area, where can they find you singing, and where can they find you on Instagram in
Well,
case they want to follow
yeah,
you?
so I'm this is crazy. I have connected with a guy. I was singing for a couple years. That gig ended, and that was really just came out of me harassing him a little bit. Like, hey, I sing. No, he was really nice. He was like,
Just
yeah.
saying.
He was like, just look at my set, you can sing. And then without ever hearing me, it's all these opportunities have been popping up for me, really just
That's awesome.
crazy. I was like, never heard me sing. A couple weeks ago, I sang with a guy. He had never heard me sing. I bothered him enough, and he's like, "Come through May 17th. They're gonna be here." And I show up, and I'm like, "Hi, you said I could sing." And he's like, "What's up?" It's a duet. Like it was just, I was on top of the world because it was someone I had seen, a local singer, and like he was so good. And so I don't have a current gig, but I do have the guy that first allowed me on his set to sing. He and I and another musician have been rehearsing. We're forming our own group, so more to come on that.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been rehearsing, we've been learning some stuff, and so that's up and coming. So people can follow me. Currently, my page is private because I'm an assistant principal, and
Oh,
the kids are always trying to find out information, and it's a temporary. It's a temporary position I'm in. I'm leaving that at the end of the school year. I'm going back to a different role, so it will be public again. But
okay.
yeah, so I'm on Instagram.
So where can they creep on you until then?
So sweet underscore Sandy, and sweet is 3 E's, Sandy is 3 E's, sweet underscore Sandy. Yeah, so they can find me, and
Uh,
I'll post, when we have some bookings, and when I pop up on other people's sets, I'll post some of that, and
and when
more
you
to
have a
come.
recording, I
More
mean, eventually you might have a recording.
I don't know. I mean, I have some writing. I don't play any instruments. That makes it a little challenging, but I did in the course of my breakup and some other experiences I've had post breakup in life, have done some writing, and so who knows, maybe more to come there.
That's
I
wonderful.
know.
I would say that I'd like to leave the listener with they're tired of my motto in life, which is if you don't try, you won't know. Do you have like something you'd leave folks with that it's like, don't ever forget this?
Oh, I think I always center everything on gratitude.
Mm.
Just be grateful. Be grateful for the breakup. I mean, it comes, be grateful for everything. I mean, that's the only way to be happy. If you are not grateful, you cannot be happy. You cannot be happy because you're never going to have everything that you want in your marriage, post marriage, in a new relationship. Never going to have everything you want. And um, I just feel like gratitude is everything. And even in the midst of a breakup, I say be grateful for the gifts that that is going to bring, because you may not see it now, but there will be so many amazing things that come your way. And just be grateful that it's just you have this opportunity to create a new life, to pursue something you may not have, and just stay grateful.
Thanks for tuning in to Your Unapologetic Life. Be sure to share this episode with at least one woman in your life who could use a confidence boost. Don't forget to claim your free video training. It's called Bounce Back Quick, 5 Confidence Boosters After a Breakup, by visiting morganbarkis.com and subscribing to my email list, or clicking the link in the show notes. Join me for more resources and learn how to book a discovery call to see if my 90-day coaching program is right for you. You've got this, girl. Let your unapologetic life begin.